I stepped on the mine and I fell down. I was fading in and out of consciousness. We had no knives and forks and spoons or whatever. The MI room blew up. So whatever medications there were, whatever instruments there were, the doctor had, were all destroyed. There was nothing to amputate my leg, to cut off my leg. I was, in fact, looking at my leg, but I said, this is disgusting. I can't keep this thing on. I like to cut it off. But there was nothing to cut it off with. Then I realized, what about the Khukri? So my Johnny was there. So I said, will you cut this off? So he said, Saab, I can't do that, Saab. But I need to wait for the doctor. So I said, he's taking a very long time to come. Give it to me. Well, I just severed it. That's it.
Major General Ian Cardozo joined the Joint Services Wing Dehradun in July 1954, which later became the iconic National Defence Academy. He was the first cadet in the history of NDA to win both the gold and the silver medal.
So I never ate my dinner properly. I lost about 10 to 12 kgs or 17 kgs. So I never gave up. I broke the underwater record of the NDA. I was a hockey blue. I boxed. In my 6th term, I passed out as the Academy Cadet Captain and the first cadet to get the gold and silver medal.
He was commissioned at the Indian Military Academy into the 1st Battalion of the 5th Gorkha Rifles, where he was the first officer of the Indian Army to be awarded the Sena Medal for Gallantry in 1960.
Then all hell broke loose. But we used the Khukri with abandon. We cut off 32 heads, Pakistani heads. And those who survived went back and told their soldiers, don't mess with the Gurkhas, you're likely to lose your head.
He took part in the Sino-Indian War of 1962, the Indo Pak War of 1965 and the Indo Pak War of 1971. We
fought for 9 days and 9 nights. We had no food, we had no water. We had just a handful of shakarpara, which lasted for, you can imagine, 1 day probably. 1 water bottle. So how could that last us for 9? How did we survive? We drank water from muddy pools, really, really dirty water. On my way, I saw this Pakistani JCO and a truck full of blankets. And he said, Janab, हमारी फौज में भारत जैसे अफसर थे, ये दिन हमने देखना था. If we had officers like the Indian Army and the Pakistan Army, we would not have seen this disgraceful day of surrender. That was a good message which I could like to convey to the citizens of India that we are well dead.
He was wounded in the Battle of Sylhet in Bangladesh, losing a leg when he stepped on a landmine. When his buddy refused to cut his leg, he took his own Khukri and cut off his leg. He was later operated upon by a prisoner of war, a Pakistani surgeon.
There was this Major Kanyan who could forecast the future, and he had a reputation of being 100% correct in whatever he said would happen. He said, Sir, you are going to be involved in a war. And there was no question of any war. You're going to get involved in a war and you're going to be badly wounded, but you won't die. You'll survive. And it happened just the way he said. I got wounded very badly. I got involved in a war and I didn't die. So the Pakistanis heard about it. So they said, we understand that one of your officers has got wounded, so bring him over. So there was a civil hospital there and there was this army major, Mohammad Bashir. So he amputated me and he did a good job. I have never been able to thank Mohammad Bashir for what he did for me.
With a wounded leg, he was offered lucrative compensation to respectfully resign from the army. Overcoming these challenges, he became the first war-disabled officer of the Indian Army to be approved for command of an infantry, battalion and brigade, rising to the rank of a major general.
I had read a story about Douglas Bader. Douglas Bader was an RAF pilot who lost both his legs in the war. He became an air ace. He shot down 21 German fighters. So it shows the determination of a service officer who never gave up. And I said to myself, I've joined the army for a way of life. I want to go back to my Gurkhas. I will get back to them. I said the only way to ensure that I will be acceptable is I must keep myself physically fit. So I used to do 6 to 7 kilometers every day, running and walking. I ran so much that the metal bolt which locked my foot to the leg sheared off and broke. So I fell on the ground and I didn't know why I had fallen. Then I saw my boot over there with my foot in it.
What are some of the experiences you've had with Field Marshal Sam Manekshaw?
Sam was an extraordinary person. He's from my regiment. He is 5th Gurkhas. When I got my Sena medal, he was the Western Army commander. So I said, I've kept this as my mantra and lived it.
It is an absolute honor and privilege to have with us for the very first time in an exclusive podcast, the legend himself, Major General Ian Cardozo.
Do you regret that episode of your life? Do you regret losing a leg?
No. I would not be what I am today, or what I was, and the experiences that I had, which were all wonderful. The ability to challenge life, challenge circumstances, prove to others, and to tell the world that disability is not the end, it's only a beginning. And I'll be 87 next month.
If a man says he is not afraid of dying, he is either lying or is a Gorkha. Sam Manekshaw, 39 years in the uniform, 3 wars, 1 leg and abundant grit. Today's story is not just about a soldier who cut off his own leg with a Khukri, but a war casualty major who went on to become one of the most decorated generals the country has ever seen, whose example has paved the way for promotion of all battle casualties to high ranks. Today's story is about Major General Ian Anthony Joseph Cardozo, Ati Vishish Seva Medal, Sena Medal, known by most as Cardoo Saab, a man who has experienced the sharp edge of battle, depths of challenges, and summits of leadership. An officer par excellence, we are beyond honored and privileged to have with us the legend himself.
Welcome to the podcast, sir. It is such a pleasure to have you.
Thank you so much.
I've spent the last 72 hours reading about you, and my heart swells with so much pride at having this conversation that I'm sure it's going to go down as one of the most cherished and memorable conversations that I've had.
Thank you so much.
So let's start from the very beginning.
Yes.
You've been a part of some of the most hallowed institutions of the country, St. Xavier's College, the National Defense Academy, Indian Military Academy. Tell us some of your experiences in the NDA.
I was, as you mentioned, in St. Xavier's College, which is a very reputed college of the country. But while I was there and I looked at what happens subsequent to getting educated at a good college like this, I felt that that sort of a life was not a life for me. And there was a schoolmate of mine, 4 years senior to me. His name was Sunit Rodrigues. He became the chief subsequently. And he came back from the NDA. He was so accomplished. He carried himself so well. He spoke so well. He looked so fit. So I said, that's the place for me. That's where I want to go. And then an ad came in the newspapers for entry to the NDA. And I applied and I got through. And there was no looking back. Or so I thought. But coming from Bombay, I knew how to ride a bike, a cycle. But I was not very good at it. When we were issued our cycles in the NDA, I turned around a very steep slope. I couldn't turn in time. I fell off a wall. The cycle got very badly damaged. And they never gave me a new cycle. So for the rest of my first term, I was running around the academy, a spectre of distress and a joke. And it was very, very tough because we had to go for PT, riding, drill, etc. And I was always late everywhere. So I was on punishment throughout that time. I used to skip breakfast because I was going to be late in any case. I was on punishment at night, so I never ate my dinner properly. I lost about 10 to 12 kgs, 17 kgs, I think, in the first 2 months. It was very tough, but my mother had taught me to do what is right irrespective of the consequences and to never give up. So I never gave up. I got my bike after 2 months and I was at the bottom of my course, but I did my best. I worked very hard. I was a good sportsman. I broke the underwater record at the NDA. I was a hockey blue. I boxed. And to cut a long story short, in my 5th term, I was second in order of merit. And in my 6th term, I passed out as the Academy Cadet Captain and the first cadet to get the gold and silver medal. Nobody had got more than 1 medal earlier. And thereafter also, the Academy passed a message, an order. Nobody will get more than 1 medal.
Okay. So you were the first cadet to win both the gold and the silver medal in the history of NDA.
Yeah.
None before, no one after.
One happened after. who was an Air Force cadet, Pradeep Biswas, and he died in an air crash. So after that, they passed this order that nobody will get more. Actually, I was also getting the best sportsman, but the commandant put his foot down and he said no. So the NDA is a wonderful life. We enjoyed ourselves. It was very tough, but it gave you the opportunity to do what you wanted to do. And despite all the obstacles, we were very mischievous. We broke every rule. I don't know whether it is good or bad, but the point is this. But I feel, what I like to express my views is that if you're not mischievous, then in war, you will not take risks. And if you are mischievous, you'll do things which the enemy will not expect you to do. So a bit of mischief is okay.
Why the army?
As I mentioned, when I saw Sunit Rodriguez coming back, and he was an army cadet, and also the instructors at the NDA were Gurkhas. And I was fascinated by the Gurkhas and the army JCOs and NCOs. In the NDA, we never, I don't know, but I never came across Naval and Air Force, NCOs and JCOs, warrant officers, etc. Perhaps because I was already in the army, but I think the basic reason is because I saw Sunit Rodriguez coming back as a very polished, finished product. So I thought, that's why. Yeah. Also, I had relations in the army. I had an officer in the Armored Corps and an officer in the infantry. I also had, there were 4 brothers, one infantry, one Armored Corps, one Air Force, one Navy. So we have a relation with the armed forces.
You joined the 5th Gurkha Regiment, known to be the most fiercest, aggressive, even creative. Tell me about your time in the regiment.
People have a wrong view of the Gurkhas, that they're very aggressive, and they're not. They are absolutely self-sufficient, competent fighters. They come from areas where their lives, even in the hills, is very, very tough. There are animals to fight, damaging their crops. There's no water, it's lots of problems. So they're always facing difficulties, but they do it very cheerfully. What happened in 1971, I was still in Staff College when the battalion had to launch an attack at a place called Atgram. And we had come from an area where there was no artillery support because we were in a counter-insurgency area. The CO decided to use the Gurkha weapon, the Khukri, as the main weapon of attack for that assault. And he launched the attack at midnight. We crossed a river, entered the enemy location without their knowing, till finally the sentry challenged us, and then all hell broke loose. But we used the Khukri with abandon. We cut off 32 heads, Pakistani heads. And those who survived went back and told their soldiers, don't mess with the Gurkhas, you're likely to lose your head. But the Gurkha by itself is a very peaceful person. He's very caring for old people, for children, but he'll also cut off your head without blinking an eye. So in war. So he is a perfect fighter. He automatically follows the ethics of war. He does what he is told, he does it well. And he follows orders, he's very disciplined to the extent that, and we were under the British, there was a sentry posted at Kabul on the magazine, and the magazine caught fire. And they told him to stand down. He said, no, unless I be mounted by the adjutant, and unless the adjutant stand me down, I'm not going to. And he got blown up. Oh. So they go to the extent, they are very, very disciplined. They follow orders. They're very, very loyal.
Selfless.
They're unafraid. And they accept death as something which is okay. Accept that without feeling too bad about it. Even when they lose their comrades, as I mentioned in the book, Cardoo, the ambush, they just said it's okay, it happens.
Why do you think that is the case?
I think one is in their genes, and secondly, it's the difficult life they live in the hills. Whether you're a Kumauni or a Garhwali or a Gurkha, I think hill folk are more stoic. They accept life as it is. They don't feel too bad about it. And if things go wrong, they know it will turn out all right. So they're very cheerful, and They're wonderful troops.
Before we get into the war, you had talked about an incident in your book, Cardoo Saab, which I had the pleasure of reading. 1 year before the war broke out, a major by the name of Major Kanyan had predicted, I don't know if I'm pronouncing the name accurately. Kanyan. He had predicted a certain fate. So I'd like you to talk about that a little bit.
I was in one corps as MS to the corps commander, who was also a 5th Gurkha, General Satarawala. There was this Major Kanyan who could forecast the future. And he had a reputation of being 100% correct in whatever he said would happen. So a cousin of mine who was a national footballer was passing through Mathura and he stayed a couple of days. And I spoke to him about Major Kanyan. So he said, "You Faujis, what do you know about astrology and astronomy and all that?" So I said, "No, he can forecast the future." So he says, "Let me try him out." We called him over and he said, "Major Kanyan, tell me about myself." He asked him 3 questions. He gave, where were you born? What time were you born? When were you born and what time were you born? 3 questions. And he answered and he came back and he said, "You are going to get married in the month of April next year to a teacher." So he said, "That's where you're wrong. I'm getting married in September to a secretary of a corporate sector person. So I'm not getting married to a teacher. And I'm getting married in September." So he just smiled and said, "You have answered my questions and this is what's going to happen." After 2 months, my cousin rang me up and said, "My fiancée is in UK. She has got a good offer of a good job there and she wants me to join. I'm not joining her and the marriage is off." And next April, he married a teacher. So I asked Kanyan, "Can you tell me something about myself?" He said, "Why do you want to know? It's not nice to know." I said, "I'd like to know because I don't think I'll meet you again because I'm going to staff college." He asked me the 3 questions which I answered, and then subsequently he didn't come for 1 day, 2 days, a week. So I phoned him up and he came and he said, "I'm getting very strange answers to the questions." So I said, "What is it?" He said, "Sir, you are going to be involved in a war." And there was no question of any war outside. The whole world was at peace. India was at peace. Pakistan was at peace. China was at peace. You're going to get involved in a war and you're going to be badly wounded, but you won't die. You'll survive. So I said, "What are you saying? I'm going to be in staff college for a year. I'll be doing a course. And there's no question of any war inside. Something wrong somewhere. Can you check again?" Checked again, he got the same answer. So I said, anyway, I put it at the back of my mind. I went to staff college. When the problem started in Bangladesh in the month of April, by October, my battalion had moved to the border. By November, I had moved to my battalion. And I put this at the back of my mind. And it happened just the way he said. I got wounded very badly. I got involved in a war, but I didn't die.
Yes. Coming to that story, you fought 3 wars. 62, 65 and 71, but the 71 Indo-Pakistan War turned out to be a watershed moment, not just in your career, but your life. So can you take us through that, please?
Yeah, that is true. But the thing is that 1971 was a watershed in my life. But the maximum experience of war and war fighting was 1965. I was a company commander. I was caught in a very big ambush. I fought my way out of it. I launched an attack. My companies took part in both these operations. I lost my company to IC, I lost my platoon commander, I lost NCOs. I seemed to live a charmed life because people left and right of me got wounded. My runner got killed. My platoon commander was on the left of me, got killed. Many got killed and I survived, but I saw a lot of action in 65. In 71, I was the second in command of the battalion. That means I was like an advisor to the CO. I wasn't a battalion commander. I wasn't a company commander. But I saw a lot of action. I didn't take part in the sense that I didn't launch an attack. I didn't command a company, which at that time was not my task. But we went into a very historic operation. It was the first heliborne operation conducted by the Indian Army. We went 100 kilometers behind enemy lines. We were told we would be linked up within 48 hours. We were never linked up. We fought for 9 days and 9 nights. We had no food, we had no water. We had just a handful of shakarpara, which lasted for, you can imagine, 1 day probably. 1 water bottle. So how could that last us for 9? How did we survive? We drank water from muddy pools where really, really dirty water, which had an effect on us, of course. And we scrambled for grain from deserted huts which were in the area in which we had occupied. So we managed to survive. But it was tough. And the reinforcements never came. We were just 384 when we heli landed at Sylhet, a place called Sylhet in Bangladesh. We captured the airfield and we held the airfield against a number of attacks by the Pakistanis. Fortunately for us, we'd never realized, we knew that there was a very big force, but we never realized how big it was. And I think the BBC should be given some credit. They came to our rescue because they made a mistake and said that a brigade of Gurkhas was landed at Sylhet. So this put the enemy on watch. And they got a little apprehensive. But we were only a battalion. But the CEO and I decided to pretend we were a brigade.
Can you tell us the difference between a battalion and the brigade for the viewers?
Yes, my wife always tells me, you keep on talking of battalion, brigade. Nobody knows what you're talking about. Battalion consists of 6 companies. Each company consists of about 120 men. So 6 companies in a battalion. 3 battalions make a brigade. A battalion has about 1,000 men. A brigade has 3 battalions, so about 3,000 plus some attached troops, so it comes to about 3,500. And 3 brigades form a division, and 2 to 3 divisions form a corps, and 2 to 3 corps form a command. And that's how the army is organized. Western Command, Eastern Command, Northern Command, Southwestern Command, Southern Command, Central Command. So that's the brief, how the army is organized. So we fought them for 9 days and 9 nights. It was very cold, it was winter. The CEO had decided not to carry blankets, not to carry... all that we had were our rain capes, which we call barsatis. We hardly ever slept, but you have to sleep at some point of time. So 2 Johnnies with 1 barsati below, ground was wet, and 1 barsati on top. We managed. And I told you how what we ate and what we drank. We pretended to be a brigade. The bluff worked.
And you all were half a battalion.
We were less than half a battalion because the battalion, 6 companies, so 600 plus battalion headquarters, and so it comes to about 800, maybe 1,000 men. We were 384 when we landed. With casualties, we ended up with 352. So finally, to cut a long story short, on the 15th of December, 2 young Pakistani officers came with white flags saying they want to surrender. My CEO felt that this was a bluff. We were so few, they were so many. And he told them to tell them to go back. We'll continue the fight. I've got no orders to accept your surrender. Go back. But they were serious about wanting to surrender. And they said, no, can we talk to your brigade commander? That is the time we realized that our bluff had worked and they thought we were a brigade. So the CEO said, I will talk to the brigade commander, but for the time being, you come back tomorrow and we'll discuss. Then we spoke to the brigade commander and said, for God's sake, come and take the surrender. This is what they're saying. So the brigade commander came the next day in a chopper, and the enemy came to surrender. And they asked the brigade commander, who came in this chopper? So he said, I have come in this chopper. So he said, but aren't you here? He said, no. I said, where are you? He said, I'm 100 miles away. So then he said, what is here? So he said, it's just a battalion. Not even a battalion, half a battalion. They couldn't believe what he was saying, and there was a murmuring amongst them. So they got the surprise of their lives when they learned that we were only half a battalion. And we got the shock of our lives when 3 brigadiers, 2 full colonels, 170 officers, 290 JCOs, and 8,000 troops surrendered to us. By that time, we were 352. Casualties had taken place. We lost 4 officers, 3 JCOs, and about 30 men, and about 126 wounded. So we paid the price, but we won the day.
Yes, I remember reading that. That is a very, very poignant demonstration of what really happened. When you were at the Defence Services Staff College, when the war broke out, can you take us through your involvement in the 1971 war and how did the events really unfold thereafter?
See, personally, I was at Staff College, and the war, we knew it was going to start. So the course was terminated a month in advance. We were told to drop our families home. I was on my way to Delhi to catch the flight of the Assam courier. When we were passing Agra, when we heard these aircraft, Pakistani aircraft, that was the day on the 3rd of December when the war started.
Okay.
When we reached Palam, they told us that, sorry, the courier is not going to function because it's going to be a very lucrative target with so many officers and men. So we quickly got onto a taxi and rushed to Delhi railway station. The taxi driver was the Sardar. He refused to accept money from us. He said, no, Saab, how can I take money from you? You're going to defend the country. How sweet of him.
Yes.
And then the Assam mail was moving out of the station. We managed to jump on board, pull the chain, managed to get on board. We were without tickets, without reservations. So the conductor said, how can this be? How can you be on the train? So we said, there's a war on. And so he said, okay, sir, welcome to the railways and no charge. So that's how when we reached a place called Dharmanagar, JCO met me and said, Saab, the battalion is about to launch a heli-1 operation. We have to rush to get there on time. So a jeep was placed for me. I reached there at 3 o'clock in the morning, and the first wave had already gone into Sylhet the previous evening on the 7th. And I met the remaining companies over there. I had not seen them for 5 years. There were 3 officers standing there. So I went to meet them and I said, this is Major Cardozo, second in command designate of the 4th, 5th Gurkhas. He came forward and he stuck out his hand and he said, welcome to the division in Ian. I am the Div commander. My name is Krishna Rao. He went on to become the chief later on. They were very concerned because the first wave had gone in, the CO had gone in, and they couldn't push the other companies that night because we didn't have night flying capability. So they were very worried as to, and there was a lot of firing going on, and the CO was reporting on the radio that the overwhelming strength this side. So they were very worried. So they're standing there whole night. They were just waiting for the remaining waves to go in. So I joined the last wave, and we reached Sylhet. The chopper pilots were very, very brave because there was such a lot of fire against them, but they were determined to land us. They landed us and they took off. Luckily, none of them got destroyed or damaged. They got damaged, but lots of bullet holes. We could hear the bullets coming through because it was not armor protected. They were full of bullet holes, the choppers on which we were traveling. Luckily,
none hit.
Yeah, but the Adjutant got a...
Okay.
He's sitting down, so the lower part of his body. So we were only hoping that we won't get shot in an undignified place. So anyway, he died, poor fellow.
Oh.
So we landed. The enemy could have destroyed us. We were just then about 300. Some more waves were yet to come in. And they were such overwhelming strength, but they didn't have the guts. They tried to attack us. We chased them back. There were calls of Ayo Gurkhali from us and Allahu Akbar from them, and we clashed a couple of times, and they decided that we were in strength. BBC the next day announced that we were a brigade of Gurkhas. So we managed. We had no RT support, but the Air Force kept us going by attacking them in the morning. They were plastering us with RT fire. We had severe casualties. And one of my JCOs who was with me from 1-5 when we came to 4-5 to the new battalion. So he said, Saab, I know I'm not going to survive, but don't want to go away alone. So please come and meet me before I depart. So I was going to him, and he said, get me a chopper, get me out of here so I can get better medical attention. As I was going to him at about 3 o'clock in the morning, the early morning salvos, breakfast salvos of the Pakistani started. You know, when you are under shelling of RT fire, When you hear the whistle of the bomb, you know you're safe because it's going over you.
Okay.
When you don't hear that whistle, it means it's going to land on your head. So that's what happened that day. And the round landed on the bunker where the casualties were, and this JCO, we died. There were bits and pieces of them. We could never collect whatever. So that's how it was. We were under a lot of fire, but the Air Force kept the enemy at bay. BBC announced that we were a brigade. So all these factors, and the fact that we kept on patrolling, we kept on aggressive patrolling, we kept on chasing them. So they believed that we were in strength, not realizing that although we were small, we were very aggressive and kept them at bay. That's what helped actually. And finally, they couldn't believe that we were just half a battalion.
Yes.
Because we had projected a strength of much more.
Yes. Please take us through the landmine blast.
What had happened was on the 16th after the surrender, the Mukti Bahini and the citizens of Bangladesh had suffered so many atrocities from the Pakistani army that they would have massacred them.
Okay.
So an order came from the top that they will be allowed to keep their weapons to protect themselves. By this time, surrender had taken place. The BSF JCO had come and he was panicking. He said, I'm just a platoon here and there's this whole army of Pakis armed with weapons and I'm not very secure. So I said, okay, I'm coming. The CO said, Ian, why are you going? We don't know who this BSF guy is, where he's come from. He's not under us. So I said, sir, if he opens fire, there will be an incident which will not be good for the battalion or the Indian Army. Let me go and reassure him that all is well. Not realizing that I was going to walk through a Pakistani minefield. And I stepped on a mine. Now, it's stupid of me because my runner was walking ahead of me. The Gurkhas can read the ground. So he knew, but he also felt that Saab will also know.
Oh, okay.
But I'm a city boy. I'm not like the Gurkhas who can read the ground. I stepped on the mine and I fell down. Mukti Bahini person was standing there. I gave him full marks. He rushed into the minefield where he could have been blown off himself, picked me up, took me out of the minefield. I don't know. There was a jeep there. Whose jeep it was, how it was, I don't remember. Actually, I was fading in and out of consciousness, so maybe there was something, I don't know. But I knew there was a jeep there, and the jeep took me to the battalion headquarters. And the CO said, I said, sir, I'm very sorry this has happened because I didn't listen to what you said. Now, we had gone, we had no knives and forks and spoons or whatever. We had no, the doctor had nothing. I didn't tell you, the MI room blew up. So whatever medications there were, whatever instruments there were, the doctor had, were all destroyed. There was nothing to amputate my leg, to cut off my leg. It was looking very disgusting. I didn't feel too bad about it actually. I mean, felt bad, but I was not overcome. I was not, distraught. I was, in fact, looking at my leg, but I said, this is disgusting. I can't keep this thing on. I like to cut it off. But there was nothing to cut it off with. So the RMO came and I said, Doc, will you please go and get something to cut this off because it is hanging by some shreds of flesh. Then I realized, what about the Khukri? So my Johnny was there, so I said, will you cut this off? So he said, Saab, in Nepali, he says, Saab mo garno sakda na, means I can't do that, Saab. Why don't you wait for the doctor? So I said, he's taking a very long time to come. Give it to me. So I didn't chop off my leg as everybody. It's been so exaggerated and, made me into a sort of a hero. Nothing like that. It was just a disgusting thing which had to be cut off. I just severed it. That's it. I didn't chop it off and become a big Rambo or something. No. It was just something which had to be got rid of. That's all.
So you took your Khukri and you essentially cut off your leg. Yeah.
So anyway, then we had no medical attention. We had no medicines. We had nothing. So the Pakistanis heard about it. So they said, we understand that one of your officers has got wounded, mine blast injury. And you don't have any medical facilities, so bring him over, we will deal with it. So there was a civil hospital there and there was this army major, Mohammed Bashir. I didn't know his name at that time, but from the documents which he has signed, his name was written there, his IC number, his medical number also there, Muhammad Bashir. So he amputated me, and he did a good job because when I went to the limb center later on, they said it's been amputated very nicely.
And you had these two conditions that you laid out in front of your commander, I believe?
Yeah. No, when the CO said that the Pakis have said that they will attend to you, I said, sir, no, I didn't trust them. I said, no, sir. He said, Ian, don't be a fool. You'll cause problems for yourself and for me and the battalion also. So do what I'm telling you. So I said, sir, under two conditions. He said, you can't lay down any conditions. You're in no situation to lay down any conditions. So I said, sir, I have two requests. What are they? I said, sir, I'll not take Pakistani blood.
You don't want them to cut off your other leg.
Yeah, I said, I don't trust them and maybe I don't want them to cut off my good leg. So he said, Ian, they're not like that. Don't worry, I'll be there. So I said, sir, I want you to be there. So I don't know whether he was there. The Pakis did a good job. And whatever, Dushman or otherwise, I have never been able to thank Muhammad Bashir for what he did for me. Too bad.
Mm-mm. You also talked about an incident where you had an interaction with this Pakistani JCO regarding the blankets.
Yeah. On the day of the surrender, now we were responsible, we were just 352 and there were over 8,000. So we are now responsible for their safety and security. So I said, let me go and impose our identity that we are in charge. You are our prisoners, so that I will go and ask them about, is everything all right? So I went across and on my way I saw this Pakistani JCO and a truck full of blankets, an army truck. So I just thought to myself, we are without blankets. So I said, साहब ये कंबल किसके लिए है? आपके जवानों के लिए है या आपका स्टोर के लिए है? तो इसे साहब जवानों के पास तो कंबल है इनके पास, ये स्टोर के लिए है. तो आई सेड ये कंबल हमारे जवानों को दे सकते हैं, मैं आपको रसीद दे दूंगा. इसे साहब आपके जवानों के पास कंबल नहीं है. नो एंड आई सेड ऑल्सो जवानों देने के बाद अगर कुछ कंबल रह जाते हैं तो हमारा ऑफिसर को दे देना. इसे साहब क्या बोल रहे हैं आप, जवानों के पास कंबल नहीं है? आई सेड नहीं, हम सोने के लिए नहीं आया है इधर, आपको बर्बाद करने के लिए. तो ही केम टू अटेंशन एंड ही सल्यूटेड मी एंड ही सेड, जनाब अगर हमारी फौज में भारत जैसे अफसर थे ये दिन हम नहीं देखना था. Which means, translated means, if we had officers like the Indian Army and the Pakistan Army, we would not have seen this disgraceful day of surrender. That was a good message which I could like to convey to the citizens of India, that we are well led. Officers lead from the front, and the men, soldiers who are best in the world, follow the officers because they know that their leaders are there facing the brunt of the weapons, and that is why we were so successful in 71 and all the wars that we have fought. Our officers lead by example. Leading men in battle is a privilege which is given to very few, and it is an awesome responsibility because the men and the officers know that many of them will not come back alive. So this responsibility falls on shoulders of very young officers who lead from the front. But that's what it's all about. Honor, sacrifice, doing what is required, putting country first. That's what makes life in the army so different. That's what makes life so wonderful. Because we know that we are doing something which others cannot do. I'm not saying that every profession is doing something for the country, no doubt. But I think the army is a cut above all that, because we're putting our lives on the line.
Going back to the incident, you mentioned that at that point you weren't very overwhelmed with your leg being hacked off. What happened thereafter? Because there were a series of events which turned out very unfavorable.
Yeah, See, I'm not complaining because things happen in war which one has no control over. The army does its best with whatever it has. The MI room was destroyed. There was nothing we could do about it. There was an answer. The enemy responded, helped me out, amputated my leg. But now, when I was in Mathura, the officer there who was commanding the TAC headquarters, the Air Force officer, who was the group captain then, was now in Shillong, and he got a message to say that Major Ian Cardozo wounded, vagara, vagara. So he said, oh, I know, it's Ian. So, and they want a chopper and there's no chopper available because the surrender was taking place in Bangladesh. So he made sure a helicopter was sent. It was a small helicopter with 2 pilots, and they put me on the chopper and evacuated me to an abandoned airfield, World War II, where they said there was an ADS. ADS is Advanced Dressing Station. It is one cut above the Regimental Aid Post, RAP. But nobody knew I was coming. So I was landed on that airfield, and the chopper took off because they didn't have night flying capability. It was getting dark. It was my batty. My batman was with me. So we were there on an abandoned airfield with no idea where we were, what was happening, who will come to meet us. Nobody knew that I was there. I saw a person on a cycle on the edge of the airfield going. So I told my batman, Balbadur, go and tell him to go to the nearest army unit and get somebody to get me out from here. So he started running after that cyclist. The cyclist saw a soldier running after him, he got scared and started pedaling away faster till he fell down. Then my batty said to him that my Saab is there, he's wounded. Will you go to the nearest army unit and tell them to send a vehicle for him? So he said, "No, Baba, I'm not going to any army unit at night." So he said, "Okay, then give me your cycle. You go and sit with my Saab. I will go and get the army unit." So he said, "Okay." So this chap comes walking up to me, shouting. It was cold. And I was wrapped up in a blanket on a stretcher on the airfield, and he came and sat next to me. And it took a long time for my batman to find an army unit and get a vehicle, etc. But so we had landed there at last light. That is about, and it gets dark early in the east. By 4:30 or so, I was there. And around midnight, a truck comes and picked me up and took me there. And took me to the ADS. There was an ADS there, Advanced Dressing Station. It was intense. But the JCO who was in charge of the officer was obviously, it was on a limb. There was no war evacuation on that route. So there was no use for that ADS. I don't know why it was there. So the officer must have been called and used elsewhere. A JCO was in charge. He had gone to get some medications. So there was nobody to look after me. Came back the next day. And then he said, "Saab, I cannot look after you. Yeah, you should go to Dharmanagar, which is many miles away. I'll send you in a vehicle there tomorrow." So by this time, my leg was hurting very, very badly. And I was on a stretcher on the floorboard of that truck. And it was mountainous area, hilly area, so it was going around curves. And the stretcher was going from place to place. My leg was hurting very badly. My batman was trying to keep me in place, but it didn't happen. I'll tell you about in the sense that this guy, first the NCO said, they said, "Take off these bandages." They were putting hot water with acroflavin. It was hurting very badly. So I said, "Can you give me a painkiller?" They said, "No, no orders." And the JCO came, "No orders." And I called for the officer. The officer said, "Bear with your pain, you're suffering for your sins."
Yeah, why did he say that?
That's stupid. But he said that.
That you're suffering for your sins.
Yeah.
And I won't give you a painkiller because you're paying for your sins.
I don't know why. I didn't ask. But he said, "You bear the pain, you're suffering for your sins." So I was taken aback. Then I said, "Okay, I'll take whatever these people have to throw at me." And then I went to Guwahati, Silchar to Guwahati, Guwahati to Delhi. It's all there in the book.
Yes. Your mum, they didn't give you antibiotics for a very long time.
Yeah. So now, they took off the bandages.
Yes.
But no, the JCO said, "I will not give you any antibiotics because I don't have the
Directions.
I don't have the orders." I don't know why. Thinking of it now, I don't know why They didn't give me antibiotics even at
Yeah.
the Dharmanagar.
Yeah.
So when I reached Pune, Khurki, I had not thought about it, but the pain of the leg started paining very differently.
By this point, you went without antibiotics for close to 10 days, I
Yeah,
believe.
yeah.
And for no reason.
For no reason.
Okay.
The doctor there, a young lady, said, I can't give you antibiotics until the surgeon sees you. Now, the surgeons were operating night and day because there were hundreds of ALC, Artificial Limb Center. All the battle casualties who are limbless were coming to Pune. So they were operating day and night. They had no time to see me. What I want to tell you is that when I came back from the limb center one
Yeah.
day, and it's not there in the book,
Okay.
and I saw this guy.
Which guy?
This fellow said, you're suffering for your sins.
So you met this guy who said you were suffering for your sins. Okay.
So I
He was a
came-
major, I believe.
He was a major.
Yeah.
Junior to me.
Okay.
So I got down from the ambulance and I said, Major so-and-so. He said, yes, you know me. I said, we're in Dharmanagar. He said, yes, I was in charge of the hospital there. I said, this is what he said to me. And let me tell you one. If I get you in a field area, I'll kill you. This is what he said to me. I'll never forget it. He got very worried and frightened and he ran to the commandant's office. I didn't know. So I came back and I told Jaya Lakshmi, who was the MO, I said, this is what this guy said, this is what I've told him, and I've got my badla. Obviously, I'm not going to do what I said. I just wanted to say something against him. Just came like that. So he says, sir, you can't do that. It's an military offense. You can't keep on threatening to kill an officer like that. You can't do this. So, and then I got a summons to the commandant's office. Luckily, the commandant was away, and the deputy commander who used to play Scrabble with us was a friend. So I went in his office. He said, yes, sir, he said he's going to kill me. So I'm afraid I did something which is not right, but I said, who is he? I don't know who he is. So he said, what do you mean? I said, I don't know who you are. Who are you? I've never met you before.
Oh.
So the commander, Dep Commander, realized what the hell, all this, both of you get out from here. Oh, nonsense. So we walked down the steps and I said, I'll still kill you.
I want to talk about post-traumatic stress at this point because you talked about a lot of other soldiers
Not
who
a lot
were...
about the soldiers. It's just, see, at that time, post-traumatic syndrome
Yeah.
was something which was not known to us. We didn't even, first of all, there were over nearly 300 to 400 of us, officers and men. Officers are mostly young. When I entered the lower officers' ward, they were in wheelchairs, playing basketball, they were running around, they were happy. So we were all there together, sharing our woes or whatever. And there was no signs of, we didn't even know what this thing was, PTSD or whatever. And there was no issue. We were all quite okay. We accepted the fact that we were wounded and that we were all over Pune, we were at the race course, we were at the movie house, we were in the bar, we were drinking, we were enjoying ourselves. Why were we like that?
Yeah.
I don't know. We were borrowing money from money lenders at exorbitant rates to pay for all this what we were doing, all this nonsense, going to movies and race course, and maybe we were trying to overcome this latent thought of fear. Kya hoga? What will happen to us? Will the army keep us? Will the army not keep us? What will happen? Maybe that was what was at the back of our mind, but we never thought of it at that time. And there was an officer, a major, who had lost both his legs above the knee. So he was given 2 short wooden stumps. So he was like a dwarf walking with a stick. And he had a girlfriend. It never worked out, so he could never go back to her. And he used to say, who will marry me now? Like, we never realized that we should have spent more time with him because we were enjoying ourselves. The hospital, accommodative. They knew perhaps better than us what we were going through and that we were just trying to push away the thought of the future by enjoying ourselves. Looking back, I think that is exactly what it was. We were probably not aware of what would happen to us. And we were just trying to push that thought away by living it up. So we heard later on that this officer shot himself because he couldn't take it. So this is what PTSD is all about. And I don't know whether we are doing anything much about it. Maybe there is, I don't know. But I hope the armed forces are taking this a little bit more seriously and attending to it, to making sure that. And the central government and the state governments were very grateful to what we did and were cognizant of the fact that we were now
War casualties.
And they made very good offers for us to leave the army, giving us land and giving us free education for our children and giving us opportunities for jobs, etc. But some of us who had joined the army not for the money, we had joined because there was no money in the army in any case.
Yes.
We had joined it for a way of life and we wanted that life to continue. But they had said that, sorry, as a battle casualty, you cannot command troops, you can't go back to your men, you can't go back to your battalion. So I said, we thought to ourselves, how can that be? What sort of a life is this? Because we've joined the army for a way of life, and that life is not going to continue the way we thought it would. What's going to happen? But I had read a story about Douglas Bader. Douglas Bader was an RAF pilot who lost both his legs in the war. And but he was allowed to fly by the British Air Force. He became an air ace. He shot down 21 German fighters, became an air ace, and he was shot down over Germany.
He was shot down?
He was shot down over Germany.
Okay.
And both his legs, wooden legs, got caught in the cockpit. He landed on his stumps, got hurt. It's not in the book. Oh.
What happened thereafter? No, it isn't.
Okay, so he landed over there, and there was the German newspapers were full of the fact we've captured an air ace, etc., etc. So they asked Douglas Bader, what do you want? He said, I want my legs. Now, both the British Army and the Indian Army, I always have a spare leg. They give you a reserve leg in case this leg gets broken or damaged or whatever.
Okay.
It did happen to me also.
Okay.
So they informed the British government that we've got Douglas Bader with us. He's without his legs. Can you fly his spare legs over?
Oh.
So a flight path was designated. An aircraft was allowed to come. It paradropped his legs for Douglas Bader. He got his legs and he was very happy. What did he do? He escaped. But it was winter, it was snowing. How far could he go with two wooden legs? So they caught him, they brought him back, they put him on the first floor and they took away his legs. What did Douglas Bader do? At night, he got down from his bed, he crawled from bed to bed, pulled out the bed sheets, made a rope, tied it to one of the beds, got out from the window from the first floor, got onto the ground and was crawling through the snow till he was caught once again and put into a high security prison in Germany. So it shows the determination of a service officer who never gave up. And I said to myself, I've joined the army for a way of life. I want to go back to my Gurkhas and I will get back to them. But somehow, I didn't know how. I didn't know what I would do. But I said the only way to ensure that I will be acceptable is I must keep myself physically fit. So I used to do 6 to 7 kilometers every day, running and walking. I ran so much that the metal bolt which locked my foot to the leg sheared off and broke, metal fatigue. So I fell on the ground and I didn't know why I had fallen. Then I saw my boot over there with my foot in it. So I hopped and I picked it up. I flagged down a vehicle, a car.
This was in Delhi, SP Marg,
In
right?
Delhi, SP Marg.
Yeah.
And then luckily the person who was driving was an officer. He said, yeah, can I help you? What's wrong? So I said, my foot has dropped off. He couldn't understand. What? So I said, my foot, I got an artificial leg. So he brought me home. I got my spare legs but I used to go to the DSY and swim every weekend. And in the holidays, it used to be full of officers, their wives and their children. And they saw this strange man walking with a wooden leg, taking his leg off, jumping into the pool. But I'm a bit of a show-off, so I used to do backstroke, butterfly, wo. And then, as you rightly said, we had to prove ourselves. And I went out of my way to prove that I'm as good as you, if not better than you. So then the army officers, wives and their daughters, come and say, please teach my child how to swim. I've taught about 300 to 400 children how to swim.
Oh.
And they now come to me with their children and say,
Okay.
you know, sir, you taught me how to swim.
Do you still swim?
Like what?
Do you still swim?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's what happened. So great to know you're a swimmer.
Yes. I started in Bombay. I was born in Bombay.
Oh,
And then WNC, Nufra. I was born in INS Ashwini.
okay.
Yeah.
What's WNS?
WNC is Western Naval Command.
Okay.
Yes, I was born there. So we have a 50-meter pool in Bombay.
Yeah, I used to swim there.
Yeah.
Naval pool, no?
Naval pool, yeah.
Initially, the pool was not there. Initially, there
Okay.
was a pool
Yeah.
built into the sea.
Oh.
So when the tide was in,
Okay.
the pool used to get full of water and we used to swim. The tide was out, there was no
Oh.
water in that pool.
Okay.
Then the naval pool came up and we started swimming.
Acha.
And I learned to swim underwater there, I told you, no? In the
Yes,
book.
yes.
There was only back
yes.
bay
I think
and-
1.5 length or something you could swim
No.
underwater.
No. There were 2 Parsi swimming pools and Breach Candy. Only 3 pools in Bombay at that time when we were small. So we learned to swim in Cuff Parade in the sea. And I used to swim, we learned to swim underwater, going under 1 canoe, then 2 canoes, then 3 canoes, then 8 canoes. That's how we became underwater experts. That's why I broke the underwater record in NDA.
I
By
see.
swimming Olympic-sized pool and a quarter underwater with one breath.
Wow. So until this point, policies barred war casualty or disabled soldiers from assuming higher ranks or from being promoted. Correct?
Basically, it starts from the fact
Yeah.
that we could not return to our troops.
Okay.
So, to get promoted to command a battalion, brigade, you have to command a company first, and you command a battalion, then a brigade, etc. You have to be in command of troops. That was not permitted to us. We were told that firstly, it's better you go because we give you all these attractive propositions. Free education for your children, we'll give you scholarships, we'll give you a gas agency or a petrol pump and all those facilities. Some of them who were accepted what the government offered and it was called being invalidated out. What people don't understand is at that time, today if you got to get invalidated out, you got to have a percentage of disability of a particular amount. I mean, if you're 50% disabled, you can't be invalidated out.
What is invalidated out?
Invalidated out means that you cannot serve in the army anymore. So you can be invalidated out. So at that time, if you were 60% disabled, you could choose to stay or to be invalidated out. Some of them felt that there was no point staying on in the army if you can't go back to our troops. Let's call it a day, and many decided to leave. I said nothing doing. I've joined this for a way of life. I'm going to stay. But I'm not going to stay if I'm going to be a babu. I want to command troops.
When you say babu, staff work, which is desk job,
Yeah,
correct?
desk job. In the sense that since World War I, only 2 officers had been promoted to brigadier's rank on the staff. Only 2. Brigadier Ratisani and Brigadier Jenkins. 2.
Who were war casualties.
Who were war casualties. Who were promoted on the staff to brigadier's rank and nothing beyond that. So I said, this is not right. But what can I do to prove that we are as good as others? I didn't know how to go about it. As I was telling you, the only way I said I'll keep myself physically fit for anything that comes thrown at me later on, I will prove that I am as good as people with 2 legs,
If not better.
So while I was in Army headquarters, when that PPT test took place, we have in the Army 2 types of tests. Battle Physical Capacity Test, BPET, and PPT Physical Performance Test. All the officers were told to come. So, but I was a low medical category. So I was not expected to do the test. So everybody was in shorts and shirts and PT shoes, and I was in trouser because of my wooden leg. And I don't wear PT shoes, I wear boots. So the conducting officer said, you there, why are you in trousers and boots? So I said, sir, I have an artificial leg. So you will not take part. So I said, why, sir? He said, because last year somebody took part who was a medical casualty and he died. So I said, sir, don't worry, I won't die. So everybody started laughing. He didn't like that. So he said, listen, do what I tell you. I said, sir, I will put you under arrest. I said, sir, you can put me under arrest only after I commit an offence. If taking part is an offence, you can arrest me only after I finish the test. So I'll do the test, then you can do whatever you like. So again, everybody started laughing. So, but he saw the sense of it, and fortunately for me, he allowed me to take part. In the 2-mile test, I left 7 officers with 2 legs behind me. So he felt quite happy about it. He was a nice officer. So he said, well done, son. So I said, sir, will you send this in my report that I did the test and I did it reasonably well? Whatever you want to say. Yeah. There are standards. We'll put them all down and we'll send the report. So in addition to what the report required, he also wrote a small note on me that this officer, the battle casualty, but he did better than some other people with 2 legs. So that report went to Army headquarters. I didn't know about it. So when I went back, I was in MO Directorate, Military Operations. DMO was General Vaidya. Heard of him?
No.
MEC and Bar. He was assassinated later on after Blue Star.
Okay.
So General Vaidya said, which battalion did you command? So I said, I haven't commanded the battalion. So he said, you know why? I said, this is what the rule is. He said, do you want to command a battalion? I said, yes, sir. You did the test? I said, yes, sir. Then put up an application. I'll support you. So I put up the application. I was supported. It went to the Vice Chief. MO comes under the Vice Chief.
Okay.
Military Operations under the Vice Chief. Military Operations, Military Intelligence, all these come under the Vice Chief. So the Vice Chief said, send them with me. I'm going to J&K. I'd like to see how he performs. So I went with him. Now, on the last leg, he was going from post to post in a chopper. And there's the pilot, the co-pilot, the formation commander, and the Vice Chief. There's no place for anybody else. So I was with the vehicles down below, taking the vehicles. At the last post, at 3 in the morning, I learned that a friend of mine was commanding that post. So I said, let me go and meet him, have breakfast with him. So I climbed up, about 4,800 feet. And it was tiring. The ground was a little slushy. It was tough. But I managed to reach the top. We had breakfast together, and the Vice Chief landed in the chopper. So he said, what are you doing here? How have you come here? He probably thought, no, I'm an NDA guy. We have Air Force links. This guy must have got an Air Force friend to give him a chopper, and he's come here. So I didn't know what he was getting at. So I said, I climbed, sir. He says, you can climb? So again, I was a little bit impertinent. I said, sir, the senior officers are not aware of what a battle casualty can do or not do. What do you mean? I said, sir, you're not giving us the opportunity to prove ourselves. So he thought about it. He went back and told the chief. Chief was General Raina. General Raina was also a battle casualty, but he lost an eye.
Yes.
If the rule was applied to him, the same rule, in World War II, if the rule was applied to him, he would never have become the chief. But he became the chief.
Yes.
Perhaps he had a soft corner for battle casualties. I don't know. So he said, send Cardozo with me, I'm going to Ladakh. So I went with him to Ladakh. I walked over there, icy snow and ice. He came back and he said, he called for my file. Now, this is all luck.
Yes.
Because Raina was the chief, vice chief, asking me to apply, supporting me. How did it happen? So he called for my file and he said, yes, give him a battalion and other war-disabled officers who are not taking shelter of their wounds, which means that they are prepared to do whatever is required of them.
So most battle casualties take shelter of their wounds in a sense? No. Okay.
But some of them might. So he's trying to ensure that people who get command of troops do what is required of them.
Correct.
And they don't take shelter and say, no, I can't do this, I can't do that.
Yes.
In fact, as you said, we had to prove ourselves. I kept on doing my BPT even as a brigade commander. And the battalion commanders came to me in protest and said, "Sir, when we were young officers, our COs never did BPT.
BPT is?
Battle Physical Efficiency Tests, running and all that." So I said, "Okay, don't do it. I'm going to go. You don't want to do it, you don't do it. When I come on inspection or an inspecting officer comes, you are going to be seen as the commanding officer.
Yes.
You don't have to run.
Yes.
But when you are practicing BPT with your men, the men must see that you are capable and fit. So I expect you to be fit. I expect you to do BPT, but not when you are being inspected. There you are a commanding officer. I don't expect you to do doing BPT. You stand with the commanding officer and formation commander and let him see what your battalion can do. But I expect you to be fit." So they accepted that. Because I was doing it myself.
Yes. You finally passed the proficiency
Yes,
test.
yes. So then
Yeah.
I got command of a battalion. And I was in military operations, so there was some hitch about my being replaced. The CO of the battalion was being promoted to brigadier's rank and the whole chain of command would be upset. So he went and I took over the battalion from the second in command.
Okay.
The battalion was then in Rajasthan in the desert.
You were the first one to be approved to command a battalion.
But I was not the first to be promoted. Vijay
Correct.
Oberoi was the first one to be
Yes.
promoted because a vacancy in the regiment took place in his regiment before mine.
Correct.
But I was the first. On my case, the whole thing opened.
Yes. Until then, there was no chance that a battle casualty could actually be promoted. Am I right?
No one had
No
ever commanded a battalion or been approved for command of a battalion in the Indian Army till that time.
Sure.
So now I go to my battalion and they saw this officer coming back after 17 years. I took 2 bottles of scotch, but there was not a very happy reception, thinking that this fellow has come with one leg and it's a top battalion of the 4 Victoria Crosses, very gallant battalion. At midnight I said, it's time to go to bed now. What is the program for tomorrow? I said, tomorrow we're going on a route march of 40 kilometers. There'll be a jeep for you. So I thought to myself, 40 kilometers. I've been doing 5 to 6 kilometers, 7 kilometers. And sand. And I also told myself, if I cannot do this 40 kilometers, I'm not fit to command. So I have to prove it to myself before proving it to anybody else that I will do it. So next morning he reported to me and said the battalion is all set to march. So I said, thank you. Let's go. He said, you come in the jeep, sir? I said, I'm not coming in the jeep, I'm going to march. He said, no, sir, please come in. I said, listen, who's commanding this unit, you or me? You, sir. Do as I tell you. Give me a guide, give me a map, and give me a compass. Because I knew that I will not be able to march as fast as the battalion. The battalion took off. I marched from 5 in the morning to 3 in the afternoon, non-stop, knowing full well if I stopped, there'll be a problem. And that gave me a lot of, I felt very empowered. That's the meaning of empowerment, actually. But disability talks about empowerment. You feel that you can do what others can do, and I felt I could be better than others. And I proved it in many ways. Not that I'm boasting, I'm just stating a fact.
Sure.
On behalf of I have my duty to people with disability to say what actually happened and to say what I thought about it and what I did. It needs to be known.
Yes. You also went on to become the first war casualty to command a brigade. Can you tell us about that?
Again, not to command a brigade, to be approved for command of a brigade. What happened was when I was in 15GR, I was a young officer under a company commander. That company commander now become the military secretary who deals with promotions and postings. After my board for brigadier was held, he rang me up one day and he said, Ian, congratulations, you have been approved promotion to brigadier's rank. I said, thank you, sir. Which brigade are you going to give me to command? Are the posting orders out? He said, no, but I know where you are going. So I said, where am I going, sir? You're going to the GRD, Gurkha Recruiting Depot in Kundraghat. So I said, why? Why can't I get a command of a brigade? Why are you sending me to Kundraghat? Is it because I have only one leg? He said, don't be cheeky. Be happy that you got approved for brigadier's rank. I said, no, sir, I want command of a brigade. He put the phone down. He thought this guy should be grateful he got put into brigadeer's rank, and he's telling me he wants to command a brigade. He said, there's no precedent. So I knew that now, unless I contest this immediately, there's going to be a problem. So I straight away wrote to the chief, Dear Chief, I have the honor to inform you that I've been approved for command of a brigadier's rank, but MS Brown seems to have a hang-up that I cannot command a brigade. If I commanded a battalion in peace and field, there's no reason why I can't command a brigade. I will submit an adverse career certificate to say, if my juniors are promoted ahead of me, I will not protest. I will not accept brigadier's rank unless I get command of a brigade. Chief was Krishna Rao, who was the div commander when I lost my leg. So again,
Yes.
luck.
Yes.
I don't know whether it would happen with somebody else. So he got very upset. He said, what he's saying is right. Why are you harassing him? Called the MS and fired him. He told me later. He said, which brigade is he in? So when is it falling vacant? In a couple of months' time. Give him command of the brigade. So I got command. But I'm not the first. Yogi was the first.
Yes.
Yogi Sharma. And he wrote me a letter saying, Ian, thank you. Because he would not have got command of a brigade either. Nobody would have got command of a brigade. No battle casualty would have got command of a brigade.
So Yogi Sharma also lost a limb,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
We were in adjoining rooms in Pune.
Pune. Artificial Limb Center. Yeah.
So he got command of a brigade, then I got command of a brigade. And then promotion opened up. There was no stopping. Yogi and two others became army commanders.
Yes.
Which is one rank below the chief. And we're waiting for the day when one of battle casualty will become the chief.
Yes. You also recount a particular episode that happened on the LOC when you were commanding a division. Could you please take us through that? It's a very interesting story.
Right or wrong, I had given orders that no Pakistani will come within 50 meters of the line of control or the international boundary, which is, both were in my division. I was the div commander, commanding a division in Akhnur. And my orders were being implemented. And then I went on leave. And when I came back, the brigade commander asked for leave. And I said, go. I would never say no to anybody for leave. So he went. And I got a report a little later that the Pakis have established a post on the IB.
IB is?
International border. So I said, how has this happened? Why were my orders not obeyed? So I went to the Dep commander. He said, sorry, sir, but this is... I said, no, it's not acceptable. One pencil point across the line of the IB means 50 meters of Indian territory. I'm not prepared to lose that. It's my responsibility to the country to ensure that it's not encroached. Now, either you face a court of inquiry as to why my orders are not obeyed, or you do what I tell you. Perch up. So he said, right, sir, what do you want me to do? I said, establish 3 posts. 1 in front of this post to keep them engaged, 2 behind them. He said, sir, that means you're crossing the IB. You need orders from army, but from... I said, I'm giving you the orders, I'm giving it to you in writing. Do what I tell you, or take the consequences. He said, okay, sir. Posts were established. Now all hell broke out.
Yeah.
Having served in MO, I also know that the SITREP is submitted and they pinpoint it on the map boards of it. So they pinpointed 10 days, established 3 posts, 2 across the IB. So the captain reported to the major, to the lieutenant colonel, to the colonel, to the brigadier, to the general, till it reached the chief. I didn't know about all that, but I knew it would happen. That night, I got a call from the deputy commander that, sir, 15 to 20 vehicles have come and they are loading. There's a lot of noise going on. I said, so? We war gamed this. I told you what is to be done. It's your battle. Why are you waking me up? I'm going to sleep. It's your battle. Do what you have to do. I went to sleep. I got a call at 2 in the morning. Tanks have come. Armor has come. So I said, now what have I started, which I can't finish on my own? I alerted the Armored Corps Squadron. I said, and the artillery, deployed them. I took my jonga and I went. I reached there at first light, dawn, and there were 2 Pakistani platoons in assault formation coming to attack the posts which had been established across the IB. So the JCO called out and said, "Hatao yahan se, na to humko barbaad karenge." So I had two very good battalions, the Garhwali battalion and a Maratha battalion. And the JCO said, "We welcome you. We are in bunkers, you are in the open. We have laid mines." I told them to lay mines.
Okay.
I said, "Lay mines, but tie them together so we can withdraw it." So all that was done. They said, "Lord," and all the LMGs, all that noise and that clatter. The JCU, Pakistani JCU knew we meant business. And this was start a war.
Oh.
Who would blink first, they or us? And they blinked first and they went back. Then a senior officer came without his ranks, but he was of that age, knew he was brigadier. So now there was no brigadier to go meet him, so I said, "I'll go." I took off my ranks and I went. He started saluting me and calling me sir.
Why did you take off your ranks?
I didn't want him to know that a senior officer at my level was going to attend. He's the only brigadier, so his equivalent should have come to me.
Okay.
So I went as though I was the brigade commander. But he was saluting me and calling me sir. I said, "Why are you calling me sir?" He said, "We know you're the div commander." So he started laughing. He said, "We know." He smiled and said, "We know." Actually, earlier on, I used to go around the div alone without a protection party. Just my wireless operator and me. And I got a call from the corps commander to say that, "Is this true?" So I said, "Yes." I said, "Don't do it. The Pakis have come to know about it and they might do something about it." So I said, "Okay." So now they knew who I was. So then I said, "Okay. Now, why have you come here?" So he said, "Sir, we have a very big exercise called Zarbi Moment, which is..." I said, "I know. It's 40 kilometers away from here." He says, "How do you know?" I said, "We know." I said, "So it makes no sense. 40 kilometers away, what is your post going to do here? Can you see?" So those are my orders, sir. I said, "Okay." So I said, he said, "So I've spoken to my headquarters and they said that both sides should withdraw." I said, "Fine." I said, "I'm not coming to look at your face." So he said, "Okay. So you withdraw first." I said, "No, nothing doing. You came first, you'll go first." So he says, "Sir, but they have said you have to go first." I said, "Who are they? I don't take orders from you. Go and tell them." I said, "Come back soon because it's going to be dark." He came back at 4. I said, "I'm prepared to go simultaneously." So came at dark by that time. He says, "Request has been accepted. We will withdraw simultaneously." I said, "Sorry." He said, "Sir, you promised." I said, "Yes. It took you 4 hours to come. It is now dark. I don't trust you. If we withdraw simultaneously, I can't see whether you've gone or not. I don't trust you. I'm not going back. Tomorrow morning we'll go." So he said, "I'll be in serious trouble." So I also had to save your skin. I will withdraw 2 sections of the 2 platoons which are ahead, and you can inform your headquarters that withdrawal has commenced simultaneously, but I'm going to withdraw the rest only tomorrow morning. Okay. The next morning it was done the way I wanted, and we came back. Situation was resolved. We got the mines back, and I congratulated the dep commander and the 2 platoons, the Garhwalis and the Marathas. And I was coming back when I was stopped by a DR, a dispatch rider. So he said, "Saab, kuch दस्खत करना है." I said, "क्या दस्खत करना है? कहाँ से आया आप?" "कोर से आया." "तो क्या दस्खत करना है?" I didn't know what it was. So he said, "साहब, आप officiating corps commander हैं." So I said, "I don't know about it." The corps commander had not informed me that I'm going on leave. The chief of staff also went on leave. Now I was a senior most, so I became the... But they never told me. They should have told me.
Yeah.
So anyway, before that, army commander rang up. He said, "Sir, army commander's on the line." So I said, "Yes, sir. Good morning, sir. Ian here." So he said, "Ian, what is this? What is this I hear? Have you crossed the IB?" I said, "Yes, sir. But we are back." "You're back?" I said, "Yes, sir." "All settled. Any help report?" I said, "No help required, sir. You come back." "Have they also gone back?" I said, "Yes, they've gone back." "Can I tell this to the chief?" I said, "Yes, you can tell the chief." Chief had rung up.
Yeah.
So then he said, "Well done. And keep it up." So later on, there was a commander athletics. He took me to the corps commander and said, called him by his name and said, "See, we have had so many encroachments in the command, but Ian is the first person who has made sure this encroachment never took place. He's done a great job." And the co-commander said, "Yes, sir, but he could also have started a war." So that was the...
What are some of the experiences you've had with Field Marshal Sam Manekshaw?
Sam was an extraordinary person. He's from my regiment. He is 5th Gurkhas because he belonged to the frontier force,
Okay.
Pakistan. And we are the only frontier force Gurkha regiment in the world
Okay.
and in the Indian Army. So when partition took place, from frontier force, he came to 5th Gurkha Rifles frontier force. We have FF in our in our
Yes.
part of our name. And he was posted to command 3rd 5. And he was at the railway station when Maharaja Hari Singh in J&K had accepted accession to India. So Sam had to go and get that signature along with Menon, VP Menon. So Sam was called back from the station, told, get into this Dakota, go to J&K, get the accession signature and come back. And then later on the war started. So he never went to command 3-5. He remained in military operations and is the only officer of the Indian Army who has risen to the chief without commanding a battalion.
Oh.
But he's an extraordinary individual. When I got my Sena medal, he was the Western Army commander, and I asked for a photograph with him, and he said yes. So I said, any advice? So he said, do what you love. Love what you do. Never be afraid. Never give up. I've kept this as my mantra and lived it. And, everybody knows about Sam and what a wonderful chief he was, what a wonderful officer of the Indian Army he was, what he did for the country and the great victory in 71, all due to him. There's so many stories about him, but I was not part of those stories, so I can't tell you about them. I can tell you the stories, but I was not part of it.
Yeah. I mean, you've mentioned this in your book, but just for the viewers, I'll ask you this question. There was a little excerpt in the book wherein you talked about how you have these dreams, they're recurring dreams, and almost all of them have been you functioning on 2 legs, except for one. You've only had one dream in the past 50 years where you are walking on 1 leg. Do you regret that episode of your life? Do you regret losing a leg?
No. I would not be what I am today, or what I was, and the experiences that I had, which are all wonderful. The ability to challenge life, challenge circumstances, prove to others that you are better than, as good or not better than people who claim to be better than you. To overcome challenges and keep on advancing, doing things which others think you could never do, proving to the world that disability is not an end, it's only a beginning of a new way of life, and there's so much more to do and so much more to prove and so much. There's such a lot of joy and a sense of achievement in every little thing that you keep on doing when you're... Because I took part in swimming competitions after I lost my leg. I played hockey, I played basketball, I took part in... my wife and I took part in the Bombay Marathon till a couple of years ago.
I saw the picture.
Not the marathon, but the dream run, which is about 8 kilometers.
Okay.
So people gave me more respect and admiration than I think that was due, in the sense that I knew what I was doing and I didn't think it was so great, but people gave me recognition for what I was doing and much more than I probably deserved. But it felt good that you were at least being respected and honored. So all that wouldn't have happened if I had not lost my leg. And I, with God's help and the values that I learned from my mother and my father and the schools and the colleges and the NDA and the IMA and the army, all that put together made life, what a wonderful life. I never regret losing my leg. And a reporter asked me once the same question, do you ever regret? I said, no. And knowing what happened to you, would you have joined the army once again, if you had your life to live all over again, I said, yes, I would have. So I think it's been a good life. I think I've been inspired by people like Douglas Bader and by other people, not in the army, but who are disabled, who went on to do great things. And there is a sense of achievement. And I think what I'm proud of is that I was the guinea pig who opened a promotion for battle casualties in the army. And now there's no limit to promotions. You can become the chief even if you're disabled.
Okay.
The ability to prove to others that every challenge is an opportunity to do better, to overcome that challenge and to move on. And if I have been an example to others, an inspiration to others, I feel very humbled by it, but also happy that I have been able to do something which perhaps people have felt good about and inspired. I've been lucky.
Yes.
And most of all, I have been supported by my better half, my wife Priscilla, who has stood by me through thick and thin, right from the time she got the first telegram to say, your husband has been wounded, but she did not know what had happened to me, wounded how, wounded where, kuch nahi malum tha. It took months for her, more than a month, to finally know that I had lost her leg. And she's been my support throughout, even now. Nowadays I'm writing, and I should be more with her than, but she's okay with it. As long as she's happy that I'm happy.
What do you look forward to in life now?
I don't know if there's anything more to prove, because that's been my life as a person with disability, to prove that I am as good as others, if not better. And to tell the world that disability is not the end, it's only a beginning. And I'm now 87, and I'll be 87 next month. I met Shashi Tharoor in Kerala. I had gone for a book fest, literary festival. And when asked for a question by the audience, I asked Shashi, I said, Shashi Tharoor, yes. I said, Shashi, how would you like to be remembered? So he thought about it and he said, you're the first person to ask me a question like that. But thinking about it, I would like to be remembered by what I have written, the books that I have written. And I said to myself, that's what I also look forward to. Because what you do today can only stand the test of time. I mean, if it is somewhere written and people can read about it even after you go. So that's what I'm doing. Writing. And I've started writing about the wars. I've written 71, I've written 65, which is going to be published in 15th of August. I'm now working on Kargil. I have yet to do 62 and 48, 49. I hope I'm around to finish the lot. I've written 14 stories about Parambit Chakra, and I'm on the last one now, 21. And that will be done. I'm writing a book of poems. I want to finish that sometime at the end of this year. And I want to be at peace when I have to go. And I want to finish these tasks. I don't know whether my priorities are right, because there's so many more important things to do than writing, my personal life.
Like
Putting things in order,
okay,
settling my house,
okay,
which my wife wants me to do, which I've not been able to do because I'm writing so much. I'm hoping that will happen.
Thank you so much, sir, for this wonderful podcast, and it's been such a pleasure.
God
and
bless.
thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'm so moved and so overwhelmed, and thank you so much.
Thank you much for calling me. Great meeting you.
It's a pleasure.
And meeting your dad, and I mean, talking to your dad, and I found him so close. You're a close family.
Yeah.
He was so concerned about you. And your husband is so close, working with you on this.
He was more excited to meet you than this podcast. I have to read up.
So, and he's so supportive. That's nice. I've been very happy to see that you're so close.
The links to the General's books can be found in the description below. I hope this podcast has added value to your life. In case you'd like to be a part of our online and in-person yoga, diet and spiritual programs, you can join our WhatsApp group below where we post all our upcoming programs and give free tips on health, diet and lifestyle.